Three massive elephants are walking together across the dry, open dirt of Kenya. Heavy footsteps, bleeding sides, venom burns in their blood. Men with weapons drove poison arrows deep into their flesh. They are in deep physical pain. Every single survival instinct they possess screams at them to run. They have every reason to hide from humans until the day they die. They do not hide. They walk straight toward a human rescue center. They walked right toward the humans, not away. One of these three elephants once had a partner. That partner was an orphan. Humans at this exact camp raised that orphan and let it go. Somehow, this bleeding mother remembered that connection. She learned a terrifying lesson. She looked at the animals that caused her pain and decided they were the only ones who could offer relief. This is not a myth. It is a documented reality. The rescue team took photos and wrote down the entire event. Sit with that thought for a moment. It breaks everything we know about the wild. Think about our shared history. We are the most lethal predators on Earth. We claim their land. We hunt them down. We poison their homes. Animals have millions of years of built-in reasons to run from us. We make their survival incredibly hard. But sometimes their world falls completely apart. They do not look for their own kind. They look for us. The creature that hunted them for centuries becomes their final hope. Why does a wild fox do this? Why does a dolphin or a wild raven come right to us when they are dying? They have no natural reason to trust us. The answer lies in real science. Experts debate these concepts daily in academic circles. Researchers study how animal brains work in a crisis. The stories you're about to hear sound like campfire legends, but they are hard facts pulled straight from peer-reviewed scientific journals. Let us start with the hardest proof we have. The best example in this whole story. Scientists tested it, measured it, and printed it in the best journals on Earth. It involves a small bird. This bird does not love us. This is not some fairy tale friendship. It is a survival business deal. The bird learned to use humans as a weapon. The greater honeyguide lives across Africa. It has a massive craving. It wants beeswax and fat larvae, but it has a major problem. It cannot break into a wild beehive. Bees are lethal. A stinging swarm of thousands will kill a small bird. The hive is a fortress. The bird cannot crack it alone. Humans, on the other hand, have fire. We have tools. For generations, we learned how to create thick smoke, calm the bees, and crack open the wood to get the food inside. But humans have a flaw. We are blind in the wild. We are terrible at finding where the hives are actually hidden. They are tucked deep inside tall trees across endless miles of bush. The honey guide fixes both problems at once. It sets up a perfect division of labor. First, it uses its sharp senses and local knowledge to spot the hidden hive. Then, it flies straight toward a human honey hunter. It calls out loud. It demands attention. The bird flies ahead. It physically leads the person through rough dirt and thorns across massive distances. It guides them right to the target. The human takes over. We bring the fire. We smoke out the nest. We swing our tools. We crack open the heavy wood. We take the sweet honey for our own stomachs. But we do not take everything. We leave behind the golden wax and the fat larvae. That is exactly what the bird wanted. It is a direct payment for a job well done. For years, people thought this was just a cute local story. TV shows repeated the tale without hard proof. Then 2016 happened. A team led by Claire Spottiswoode took this to the dirt of Mozambique. They ran real tests. They printed the hard facts in science. The results hit like a hammer. Local hunters use a very specific sound. They pass this exact call down through generations. It is a survival tool designed only for the honey guide. Researchers played that exact call from a speaker. They also played random sounds of the same volume. The birds did not care about the random noise. They locked onto the real call. The numbers tell the story. Hearing that specific sound doubled the bird's response. It jumped from a 33% chance of guiding up to 66%. The chance of actually finding a hidden nest skyrocketed from 17% all the way to 54%. The bird was not just reacting to a sudden noise in the bush. It picked one human sound out of the wild and gave it a job to do. It was a sound that means work. The bird's brain processed the signal. This human wants to help me right now, and they are worth my energy. It wasn't just noise. It was a password. This is one of the only times on Earth we see this. A fully wild creature choosing to talk and work with us. It is not a pet. Nobody trained it with treats. It is a wild thing that learned to hire humans as tools. It built a real communication channel to do it. It did this completely on its own. This brings us to an uncomfortable question. When an animal begs for help, what is happening in its head? Does it know we can fix the problem? Or is it just a basic brain reaction? Scientists split this into two ideas. The first is simple memory. The animal got help from a human before, so it tries again. Pain plus human equals relief. It does not need to understand our minds at all. It just repeats a trick. But the second idea is heavier. It is about understanding that a human has a separate mind with its own goals. This is a massive mental hurdle. Scientists fight over how many animals can actually do this. But we have hard proof from dogs. Researchers put eye tracking gear right on the dogs. They found something amazing. If you just point or just stare, the dog reacts a little. But if you point and lock eyes with them at the same time, everything changes. You draw an invisible line from your finger straight to the target. The dog knows you're sending a message. They track the target. They do not just look at your moving hand. They understand a pointed finger. Human babies learn this exact same survival tool. They realize you want them to look across the room, not just stare at your hand. Now run that same brain process in reverse. When a wild, bleeding animal walks up to you, it is not an accident. It knows you're an independent mind. It knows you can act on a problem. Walking toward you is a calculated strategy to stay alive. Let us look at the hard evidence in the water. The stories hit like a hammer. Off the coast of Hawaii, a bottlenose dolphin swam straight into a group of scuba divers. Its movement was broken. Labored? Wrong. Keller Laros, a dive instructor, saw the problem. The rule of the sea is simple. Do not touch wild marine animals. But the dolphin refused to leave. It circled him. It was choking on fishing line. A sharp metal hook was buried deep inside it. The tight rope cut deep into its flesh, making it impossible to swim or breathe in the cold ocean water. Laros went to work. He cut the heavy line. He pulled out the metal hook. When the violent pain stopped, the dolphin did not run. It did not bolt into the dark water. It surfaced, took a breath, and swam right back. It floated there. It locked eyes with the diver in total silence. A moment of pure awe. Then it disappeared. There is the case of a southern right whale off the coast of Sydney. Its mouth was wrapped in a brutal knot of heavy fishing line and thick plastic garbage. It swam right up to a small boat. It bobbed against the hull over and over. Finally, a teenager reached out and ripped the deadly debris right off its face. There is the case of a wild raven perched on a rural fence. It screamed loudly for over an hour. It refused to leave the property alone. When a person finally walked outside to look, they saw the horror. 4 sharp quills digging into flesh. The porcupine's spikes were buried deep in its face and wing, causing intense agony. A complete human stranger walked right up to it. Every survival instinct told it to fly. Every genetic code screamed at it to run, but the violent pain forced it to stay completely still. It let the human pull out the sharp quills one by one. Then there is the Indian elephant. Her small calf fell directly into a deep, muddy trap. A man-made watering hole with sheer walls. The baby tried hard, but could not climb out. The mother instantly erupted into a frantic screaming panic. Her physical distress escalated quickly. She walked straight out to a nearby road. She faced passing humans. She made aggressive, clear, and deliberate gestures at the people. She refused to simply give up. She refused to wander back into the dark bush. Her natural terror of humans completely broke. She successfully forced a group of people to follow her back to the muddy trap. They organized a fast rescue. They pulled her trapped calf out of the wet, heavy dirt and back up onto solid ground. There is a similarly remarkable documented case of a whale shark off the coast of Australia. It swam directly up to a fishing boat. It floated calmly. It waited completely still for a full 20 minutes, while a diver carefully cut a tightly wound rope from around its massive body. Think about this mountain of motionless flesh. An animal holding a school bus-sized shadow completely still in the water for a human stranger. The human performed a genuine act of veterinary care with bare hands. There was absolutely no anesthesia. There were zero restraints. There was no guarantee of the giant animal's continued cooperation throughout the entire process. The animal just waited in the cold water. And then we have what might be the strangest and most specific documented case of all. A wild fox in Russia was filmed walking right out of the trees. Its head was hopelessly stuck inside a tight glass jar, a suffocating glass cage. It wandered directly up to a group of men standing nearby. It simply stood there in front of them. It was clearly trapped and in deep distress. It waited until one of the men pulled the jar off entirely by hand. The fox instantly trotted cheerfully away into the forest, but it paused briefly. It glanced right back at the men. The person filming the encounter joked online that this was a brief nod of thanks. Then the animal finally vanished back into the dark trees for good. Those particular humans never saw that wild fox again. What is genuinely worth pausing on is that professionals see this exact pattern across an enormous range of species. It is not just the famously intelligent animals like elephants. People working at long-term sanctuaries document bears, wolves, and cougars displaying this same pattern when in extreme danger. An animal that maintains deep, instinctive distance from us will essentially beg for help during a real crisis. One striking documented case involved 4 wild deer. They were completely exhausted after attempting to swim across dangerously icy water off the coast of Alaska. They were freezing to death. The risk of drowning from sheer exhaustion was absolute. Then, they spotted a boat. All 4 animals swam directly toward it. The people pulled them aboard. This behavior runs directly counter to every single instinct a wild deer has around unfamiliar primates. They should fear the boat, but freezing water is worse. So they swam to the monsters. When the alternative is drowning alone, the brain flipping a switch changes the math. The innate fear response gets completely overridden by something much stronger. This exact pattern appears across nearly every documented case. It strongly suggests that the deep baseline weariness wild animals show toward humans is not some permanent, unbreakable rule etched into their minds. It is simply a default setting. A default setting carefully calibrated by countless generations of evolutionary pressure and individually learned caution. But default settings can be completely overridden. When an animal situation becomes desperate enough, the brain runs the ultimate survival math. The calculated risk of approaching a human suddenly becomes genuinely smaller than the immediate, certain risk of doing absolutely nothing at all. The overriding code activates, they do not want to die. They choose life, even with us. Right in front of us, there is a deeper evolutionary angle worth considering. It goes far beyond one animal making a desperate choice during a single bloody crisis. Some species carry a genetic memory of humans. Their distant ancestors approached us in very specific moments. It worked out. They survived the encounter. This inherited survival trick was reinforced across generations of dust and time. The animal population remains completely wild, but they carry this hidden code inside them. The honey guide is the ultimate proof of this exact dynamic running on a true evolutionary clock. An entire wild species built a specific communication signal because working with humans paid off generation after generation. Not every single bird consciously reasons through the act of hiring a human tool each time. The underlying behavior itself proved so useful across so many successive generations that it became a fixed, predictable feature of their species. Something structurally similar happens with highly intelligent animals like elephants. They have incredibly long memories. They learn socially. They pass detailed survival knowledge down through extended families, with the oldest mothers teaching the young. An elephant herd might have a genuinely positive interaction with a specific rescue camp. That memory spreads. They carry forward a localized pact across the group. They learn that this exact type of human, standing in this exact place, brings life instead of danger. This is not world peace. It is not some broad universal trust extended toward our entire deadly species. It is a highly specific, carefully learned exception. It is carved out of a fully justified, deeply rational terror of humans as a whole. They know we are lethal, but their genetic memory tells them that under the right conditions, we are the only salvation they have left. We must be brutally honest about the hard limits of our scientific knowledge. We cannot interview a bleeding dolphin. We cannot ask a massive elephant or a wounded raven what specifically runs through their minds when they beg a human for help. Scientists remain cautious. They refuse to project human emotions onto wild survival choices. In cold reality, an exhausted animal might just swim toward a quiet boat because a boat means stillness. It means a lack of immediate danger. They might not realize we are doctors. They might just see a break from the violent pain. But the honey guide shatters that simple theory. It is not just an accident. It is hard, published proof. A fully wild creature can lock onto a specific human signal and process it with deep understanding for mutual benefit. Once you accept that one wild species is capable of real interspecies communication, everything else shifts. The broader pattern of dying animals approaching humans suddenly stops being folklore. It becomes a scientifically grounded leap in the dark. Maybe this is a carefully built genetic mutualism like the honey hunter bird. Maybe it is an individual memory of a specific safe place. Or maybe in the most violent crises, it is just a shattered survival code. A calculated risk taken because the blood is flowing and there is absolutely nothing left to lose in this world. Whatever the exact brain mechanism is, the documented truth remains undeniable. Look at the vast diversity of life. Wild birds, land mammals, massive marine animals. These creatures are separated by tens of millions of years of independent evolutionary divergence. They share almost nothing else meaningfully in common with one another. Yet, they independently arrive at the exact same desperate conclusion when the agony peaks. When everything else breaks down, when the pain becomes completely unbearable for them to handle alone. When screaming instincts demand they run, hide, or die in total isolation. They make a choice that defies the long, bloody history between our species. They fight through the terror we actively taught them to feel. They walk deliberately toward the single most dangerous predator on Earth. They walk toward the very monster they fear. Because sometimes, against every rule of the wild, that exact monster is precisely what they need to survive.